Hello and welcome to Fairfield House, but home of His Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie. Today is Sunday, and this is when the amazing tour happened that I heard a lot of people talking about. However, there's a lot of people who never heard of even the house or the tour yet. And today, I'm here to meet the tour guide, Ras Benji. How are you?
Blessed love, brethren.
Blessings. Give thanks,
Rastafari.
give thanks, Rastafari. Right. Yes, so today, you're going to be showing some people around.
It's a great honour to welcome you here.
Thank you.
As a guest of Fairfield House,
Thank you.
we're going to be doing the historical guided tour.
Amazing.
We offer this to the public all through the year
Yes.
on Sundays, and it's one of the ways that you can come and support Fairfield House, but also learn about the Emperor and his history here.
Yes. Amazing. I'm looking forward to that. And I hope you guys will enjoy the tour around because I've met some amazing, really friendly staff here who you can ask anything at all when you come here. I've been asking a lot of questions since I arrived this morning. So please enjoy. Yeah, man, I look forward to it.
Rastafari.
Yes.
Right, and the Emperor is visiting her every day to give her lots of treats. At this time, 10 years later, the dogs have been retired, and their job is to just guard the Empress here at Fairfield House and the family household. So we're going to move now into this part of the room, and as we do, if we note these photographs on either side. So this here is the princess's room, and this is where the Emperor's daughters live. And his eldest daughter, Princess Tenanyawak, lived in this room, and she would have shared it initially with her sister, Princess Sahai. And Princess Sahai became a nurse during World War II. She was known as Nurse Haile Selassie, and it said in the newspapers that she just wanted to be treated as an ordinary nurse. After the death of Princess Tenanyawak's husband, Ras Desta, she was joined by her 4 children from Jerusalem, so then this became their family space for the Emperor's grandchildren when they were staying here later. In the Communist Revolution, many of these princesses, including Princess Tenanyawak and her children, were put in prison in Ethiopia. But their school friends in Britain never forgot about them, and they formed something called the Old Girls Network. And these ladies were writing letters incessantly to Parliament in Britain to tell them to start negotiations for these Ethiopian princesses to come back to Britain. And they would, before that was the famine that was seen all across the world in Ethiopia. And the military government tried to blame the emperor for that, but that doesn't really hold water because he's the only person that was trying to modernize his people and give them those benefits of modern civilization, of agriculture and social support. But the propaganda continued, and it was, they were imprisoned, and it even filtered down to Bath because it's in that period after that time, in the next 20 years, when they're talking about selling this place and that the city doesn't need this gift and so forth. This area of the house is the private area of the Emperor and Empress, and it reflects a palace in Ethiopia that they had to leave, the Genetlial Palace, and this was given by Haile Selassie to become Ethiopia's first university in the 1960s, and it's still the Addis Ababa University today. And you can visit there, and what you'll find is there's interconnecting rooms between the Emperor and Empress's chambers. So on a very small scale, they were able to replicate this at Fairfield House, because we're standing now in what was the Emperor and Empress's living room space, more the Empress's living room space. We've been Dani Meheret prayer room, the Covenant of Mercy, about the goodness of Mary. And this is a sanctified room for the Ethiopian Orthodox tradition at Fairfield House, which is the faith of the Emperor and Empress. And this room has been made this way to reflect a prayer room in Ethiopia at a monastery that was used by the Empress and decorated by her, and it's been kept the same since that time. The Empress was such a woman of faith that she actually pledged her crown, part of his legacy that he's left in the world, in the philosophy of Ethiopianism and Pan-Africanism, in the African Union and the United Nations, across the Caribbean, and finally at Fairfield House, in reggae music, in Shashamane, which is the land in Ethiopia that the Emperor gave to black peoples of the world, the governor of. So to look out of the front window, the Emperor saw home, he saw Africa, Ethiopia. And to look out of the back window, he also saw home, because he saw the chapel. He was looking directly at the greenhouse chapel, and there's a picture of the greenhouse chapel up here, as it was in 1954. And we were standing in the left-hand side that's slightly obscure, because this is the Battle of Adwa in 1896, the first time the Italians invaded Ethiopia. This painting, exactly the same, I've heard that ours is older, can be found in the British Museum in London. And on the right-hand side are the Italians, and they're all in side profile to denote that they're evil. And on the left-hand side are the Ethiopians, and they're repelling this invasion, and St. George, the patron saint of Ethiopia, is in the battle helping the Ethiopians. In the Guinness World Records in the 1960s, Haile Selassie had the most bemedaled chest. He was the most decorated world leader, and earlier in his life, in the 1930s, he's one of the most photographed world leaders, and in the 1950s, he's the most travelled world. He knights Queen Elizabeth in Ethiopia's highest order of chivalry, which is the Order of King Solomon here. This is the Order of the Queen of Sheba, the green and purple decoration. The Order of the Holy Trinity is in the middle. The Order of the Lion of Judah, or Menelik II, and the Imperial Star of Ethiopia over here. And these up on the wall here, and the Emperor has his foot on an unexploded Italian bomb. And the journalists that took this photograph, they said they ran back. They set their timers on their cameras and they ran back, but they were so...
Members of the electric board came to visit the family, the royal family here, and they saw that they had really thick rugs over their legs in wintertime and were cold and shivering. They felt ashamed, and they waived the fees for the electric here for the family, and we live in
his mother. Although Sylvia Pankhurst was crying very loudly for Ethiopia in the 1930s, nobody cried louder than the black peoples of the world. They took this as a personal affront on the one place that represented African freedom and independence. In 1936, when he was visiting Scotland, and we feel very lucky to have it here because he didn't pose for many portraits during that time. And although you can only imagine blind, I like to imagine that this is like a Highland Scottish scene behind him, and at least she dropped her bag and all her belongings spilt out. The Emperor opened the carriage door, knelt down and helped her gather her things, and then he invited her to come and sit in his carriage. They got on really well. They spoke about nursing, the Emperor and his daughter being a nurse, and then when they came to part ways, the Emperor said to her, "I want to send you a gift, but it's not the material value of this object, it's what it's going to do for you." And this lady thought that is a very strange thing to say. And she thought it was even more strange when she received a tiny box from the Emperor with this golden stick in as her present. This time, when his ship is arriving at Portsmouth, the Emperor is accompanied by a fleet of 10 Royal Navy cruisers, and each one of them is flying the Ethiopian Lion of Judah flag. When he steps foot on British soil, the RAF do a flyover, spraying the Ethiopian colours to let everybody know that the Emperor of Ethiopia has returned to us. Military uniform to symbolise this. When Haile Selassie arrived in Jamaica, there's never been scenes like it before. Approximately 100,000 people pushed down the barriers and ran on the runway and surrounded the plane soon after it landed. The Emperor called for a Rastafari leader, not a government official. He called for a Rastafari leader to calm the crowd that he had met. He had met that leader in Ethiopia already. So there's a picture of this Rastafari calming the crowd with the Emperor behind him on the steps of the plane. And at the steps of the plane, the Emperor is said to be in tears at this great show of loyalty.
Looks like a 1920s German piano, beautifully made, heavy wood. It's got these panels, you can see, some of them are magical panels. It plays like a normal piano. It's got a soft pedal and a sustained pedal. If you open up, it's got a full keyboard. Who would like to open the first magical panel? Any volunteers? Right. First magical panel. It's here. Inside, you have a paper roll with punched holes, very like an early computer was programmed with punch holes. That has the information to play the song. It's got a mechanical gear. Rücklauf is German for backwards or rewind, and Spiel is German for play. Second magical panel. Out come the big pedals. That's to drive the whole mechanism. And then you've got little controls here, like a very sensitive speed control. So we're in the middle of a song here. If I go into reverse gear, then we rewind it. If I do that, it rewinds faster. Let me slow down to the beginning. Try and get the right speed, but we can correct it if it's wrong. Now we go into forwards gear, and now we play Name That Tune. Shout out if you know what this tune is. All right? Start playing when the punched holes start coming down. Yeah.
So we know of this area here that this is where the emperor used to sit and read. Can you pretend to be reading for me? A big book? And we learn from his autobiography the emperor's reading habits whilst he was here. We know he's a very religious man. He read the Bible every day. But whilst he was here, he also writes that he read the works of church fathers and leaders such as Abraham Lincoln and Napoleon. And with Napoleon especially, Napoleon had triumphantly overcome exile to return to France as the emperor. So it was as if Haile Selassie was looking in history to see how exactly has this been achieved before, what he's going for.
So is this when he read?
Yeah, that is his first visit, August 1936. And this one's mislabeled, which always bothers me. But this was the emperor, going to pick up the empress in October 1936. And then he drove her from the station to Fairfield House to say, this is our new home here. The Prince Maconnen, the Duke of Harrar, and you can see him when he had his first car delivered, when he was aged 16 years old. And we've again recorded memories that said that they could remember Prince Maconnen driving around the city with his school friends, and they were waving at everyone. So he was a very popular young man in Bath, and he went to schools locally, and he was said to be a very good sportsman as well. Humorous lady. And she said that the emperor's grandson, Princess Skinder, he was around 11, 12 years old when he lived here at Fairfield House. And he grew up to become the Rear Admiral of the Ethiopian Navy. But Ruth told us that whilst he was here, he had a bird, and he had trained the bird to sing God Save the King at around 6:30 every morning. I think he learnt it at school. They had birds where they trained. This is something that we have here at Fairfield House. That's not available to view for the public yet, but will be later in the year, because this is a very special year for us. It's 100 years since Rastafari came to Britain first, and it's 70 years since the emperor received the freedom of the city of Bath. So a collector and a very knowledgeable brethren called Gad Ambessa has donated this to Fairfield House to be on display for the public. This is a replica of the emperor's uniform that he was known to wear, especially in the 1960s and 70s. And when the emperor visited the Caribbean in 1966, this is the uniform that people remember him in. This is the uniform that they saw him at the steps of the plane in. So a very special artefact that's going to be on display for people to see here later this year. And in the 1960s, this became a residential care home, and it was used as a residential care home up to the 1990s, when it was deemed no longer fit for purpose as a residential care home. So then in moved Bath Ethnic Minority Senior Citizens Association, and this became a day centre for Bath's elderly ethnic minorities. It started off with the local Caribbean community known as the Windrush generation. And then when Ethiopia became an ally, recognised as an ally, there were posters saying like, "This man is an Ethiopian, he is your friend." February 1937, they reached the most tragic period of the whole of the exile time. The Italians had been occupying Addis Ababa for a number of months, and they'd been playing very nice with the local population in the capital city. There was new banks, there was new products, new roads. They're trying their best to convince.
So, Empress Pauline, this place where we are right now here at Fairfield House, can you tell me about this particular place we're in?
Yes, welcome Fuchaman, welcome to Windrush, past, present and future. So this, when you come to Fairfield House, is a bungalow at the back of Fairfield House. Used to be residential for the matron at the time, when the house was a home in the 60s, became unoccupied probably about 10 years ago. And it's just being left derelict. So we've moved in now and we've made it into a therapy space so people can come in and have therapies. It can be a one-to-one. It's been our warm space for the last 3 months where people come to Fairfield House who are homeless and need some support. They can come in. They've got a cooker. They can cook. They can meet friends. They can wash their clothes. They can have a bath and they can have one-to-one assistant. But in the room that we're in, last year was Windrush 75. So we had a grant, and from that grant, I'm going to show you around the room where we have looked at the people of Bath who came here on the invitation in the 1940s, but people were here long before that, because we had people that were in the war, so we have stories of those people. But those people that came between them to 70, and I'm one of them because I was a child when I came here, their stories, their contribution to the city of Bath for the Windrush, which we need to continue to collect, to share, because sometimes our children, grandchildren don't know what they had done. So we are proud to have Windrush and to bring some artifacts. So when people look around the room and to read the stories, as you will see, we've also got an artist who made 3 boards for us. So if you don't want to walk with me, so starting from 48, from the invitation, you can see people from the different islands across the Caribbean and how they were informed through newspapers and leaving their country. Not everybody came on Windrush. You know, because Windrush was 48. People that came later came by other boats, but also on the plane. So this depicts the first come in. The next board that she will do is people when they came here and how they lived. And then the third board will be the generation coming up and how they go forward. So we just have a timeline, and on it with pictures of people as they came. As I said, people were here before, so they were in the war. We have the first couple that we know of, Haile and Ursuline, that was married here in Bath and still together today as a couple. So that is in itself a blessing. And also Haile is the leader of Rainbow Steel Band, the first and the longest running steel band in the UK. So we're proud of this couple. Of course, people got married, they met here, or they sent for their partners, and the children coming out. So pictures, we depict all of that. And it was a family time as well, because when they came, remember, some of them knew no one. They were meeting people from different islands. So they were all living together in one house, probably sharing one room, one bed. So we get all those stories. So that's what Windrush, sad as it was, but it inspired us to know that when we complain of Littleton, what they went through, and they still, the pioneers, they stayed. They could have gone home if they could, but again, cost of fare to go home. But they stayed, and here we are today.
Thank you.
where you will see Roy Ackett. He didn't live in Bath, but he's an inspiration to us too, because we had people that worked on the bus here in Bath, but they didn't have the same issue that Bristol was having, but they were supportive of knowing what Bristol went through. And of course, we have identified a few, but there is more in these pictures here that we have, and a short story of each person and their contribution and how they came here and what they did. We've got a beautiful poem here by Vanessa or Naya, she's a Bristol. One hand can't clap. It's such a beautiful poem. You can actually hear her recite it on YouTube. But she wrote it specially for Bemska, and it's something that we've used so many times in many of our programs. So we do an annual church service, and we will also be doing an annual celebration here at Fairfield House too. And that's a music man, and this is always something for the children. What's that? And of course we have the ground, so that is something as well. It doesn't work, I'm sorry to say, but at least the door sometimes can open.
Okay, so can you tell me what this is?
All right, so
Is it like a jukebox?
It's not a jukebox, but it's sort of like similar coming to a jukebox. You got your music, and you could stack your record inside, and they drop down one at a time. But at the time, every home had one of these, and it was the proudest thing in your home, besides the cabinet. This was the music system. So you had your radio on one side, and they got a different name. Some people call it a blue spot. We call it the gram. So you know that you had that. Look at that. So I'm hoping
Beautiful.
that we can work with the repairman, that program on TV, to fix it.
Yeah.
And inside here is that little record player. So it's a jukebox, and you put it on. You press that, and this will just bring over to drop your records down. So you could have, the 33 was the big one, and the 45. So we're lucky somebody's loaned us some of those there.
Amazing. And
So
this is the Windrush bungalow, right?
This is the Windrush bungalow. So not only does it tell the story, it has some objects in it that people, remember. Either they look at the crocheting, the religious symbol that they had, but also their stories. And for those young people as well, we're on emails and WhatsApp and all those media. But remember back in the day, when you had to send those airmail letters. And so we've got the different version, either the one that you open up, or you just wrote everything in it one time, or you had one where you had the envelope. This is also, we had, when we were doing the Windrush, we involved the schools in Bath, so there's 52 schools. So they were made aware of Windrush and how they could support. So some of them wrote stories and sent it back to us, or even made a little object like this. And this is, because when you came with your grip. So they sort of did it in that way. So I thought that was really nice.
That's beautiful.
And of course, remembering Rasbandeli. And of course, when we talk of Fairfield House, we have to talk of Rastafari. And this is Haile Selassie, who I mentioned, who was the leader of Rainbow, and coming here in the early 50s and playing on his tin pan. And so I said, what is that? So once he showed them how it was made and started to play it, now they are, as I said, the oldest steel pan in the UK.
What have we got on here?
And on here now, we're just coming now to looking at the legacy. So the legacy are the young people that we have in our communities. So we have, you know, the nurses, they you know, maybe you may know Dr. Sean Sobers, who's a professor at UA, Jason Gardner, who was an Olympian, and there's lots coming up through sports as well. So we have that going on. There have been also singers here, and of course, this is our youngest person here, which is Lily McPherson, and she is training to be a fashion designer. And I've just been told that she's going off to university in October. So by them seeing that and learning from her grandmother as well, the sewing skills that they can then take forward. And we welcome at Fairfield House the Black Family Education Support Group. So we do lots of activities here. So they meet the elders, they speak with them. So we have that intergenerational bonding going on as well. And that they can also tell the story for us, because they will then understand what all this is and you know what it means and how important it was for their grandparents, great-grandparents to pass that story on later on.
And that's some classic cameras and
yes,
some sewing machine.
So there's you with your little fancy camera that can do everything. Imagine having this so heavy as well. But to know that we've still got some of these things, they may not be in use, but the importance they were for capturing. Because again, when you were young, we didn't have picture taken unless it was for your passport, and that was it. So many people haven't even got wedding photographs. So today we're just blessed to be able to get them, and so quickly as well, and to send them so quickly. You know, so you haven't got your airmail letter or your telegram that you used to. You got a quick email or a WhatsApp to go. Yes, and this the machine, the iron.
Yes,
you know?
I remember those.
So there you go.
Yeah. A lot of people. Can you hold that higher? I think some of the younger generation need to see what a clothes iron looked like back in the day. So we used to put this on wood coal in the fire. And
yes, so if you had, you know, it wouldn't be something similar, but you'd have that. Well, even if you look at this picture here.
Put the wood coal. Okay,
you
so
can
that's what
see.
it. Yeah, so that's what it would have looked like.
Mm-hmm.
The fire. Incredible. All right.
And time went on just quickly. It then went to electric, but I see it's the same style, but an electric. But now everybody know what an iron looks like.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for showing us the Windrush bungalow. But just quickly, can you tell me exactly what your role is at Fairfield House?
All right. I have been the project manager for Bemsker for 30 years. I've just stepped out of that. I've been seconded to work for Age UK to look at the discharge for people in hospital, for BME people, the cultural aspect of it. And so I'm going to be doing that for a year, but I will be still functioning on behalf of Bemsker, coming over to do case stories. But yes, and I'm also part of Fairfield House that supports the legacy of His Majesty for older people to be at Fairfield House. So it's quite a triple job.
Very important job. Thank you so much for your time and for showing us around.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Babylon me burned in them red. Oh jet, I red. Fire burn down them, kill down them dead. The Rastafari told them said I red. Them Nazi said that earth I red. The Rastafari said burn them dead. Watch a boom, hey me come fi chant Babylon, me come fi chant them one more time. Me come fi burn the wicked heart, me come fi burn them and treat them mankind. Hey, me come fi chant, now ya bing him and chant it every time. Me a feel King Selassie, his love, it's wonders and sign. And watch a boom, you born talk it. The rocky road there every day me have to walk it. You give me water fi carry in a basket. The fire, yeah, you know me have to spark it now. Ain't this politician have some dirty habit? These poor people always make us the target, but this time we are gonna treat them crab it.